Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast.
Welcome along to episode 63 of Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast. We're back again. It's me, Dave D.
And me, Dave B.
And before we go any further, I'd just like to say thank you to all those people who came up to me at the recent Craft Brew Festival in Birmingham saying how much they enjoyed the podcast. We sort of sit here month after month doing this, and we don't actually ever hear from that many people, do we, Dave? So we see the numbers and stuff, so we know people are listening, but when somebody comes up to us in the wild and says, "Oh, well done, you're doing a great job," it's lovely, but it's also just nice to know people are listening to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you said over the last few months, you're able to get out and about a little bit more than I am. Although, that said, I didn't make it, but I did have a couple of people saying, "Oh, you're going to get down to the Ipswich Craft Beer Festival," which happened just gone, which I didn't make. So that was nice. So it does sort of show, like you say, that there are people listening.
Yeah.
And
it's just nice to know people are listening to us and enjoying what we're doing, which is a real pat on the back for us, and it's much appreciated. So thanks to all those who said those kind words. On this episode, we have got, well, we love to get in early with breweries and talk about their journey. We're getting in really early with this brewery because it doesn't exist yet, Dave.
no, it doesn't exist. It's another Dave Goddard, who surprised both of us in the best possible way by sending us a beer. He had mentioned it, and we sort of weren't expecting it necessarily. And then, you know, when you get a 13% imperial stout turn up in the post, it's always going to be a good day. And the beer more than delivered, as we will talk about in the interview. He has the kit, which we'll also talk about. He doesn't have the premises yet, but hopefully it will come together.
And he can certainly brew a beer, so we'll be talking to Dave Goddard later. He's got a name as well for the brewery, but we won't tell you that. Listen and find out exactly what it is. We have got tried and tested, as usual, our favourite beer since our last episode. We've got a fun rundown of the top 20 craft beers with our own comments and remarks on them. This is a chart that was recently compiled by We Are Beer, so we'll be running through that. We've got Hype or Tripe with another Kahia Nelson beer to compare against the one we tried on our last episode. But we will kick off, as we always do, with one of our very favourite features on the podcast, Brew to Me, where we try a beer from a brewery we haven't had before. Dave, what have you got for us this time?
So I have connecting tissue from the last episode, because in the last episode I had Two Brothers Brewing, who are based down in Hastings, and one of the beers they sent me was a collab with a brewery called Bad Boy Brewing. Got in touch with them on Instagram, and they have sent me another collab, which is a collaboration with Collected Fictions. 2 years they've been going. It's a second birthday beer. It is a pale, and it is brewed with an interesting combination of hops. We've got Motueka, Riwaka, and Nelson Sauvin.
Ooh, this sounds fun. I'm expecting a lot of fruitiness and a bit of dankness, and maybe a bit of grapey, winey goodness.
Yes, I would agree with you. Oh, it was lovely. Cool, I did quite pleased with that. I did that
nice.
Free pour and it came out okay.
Well, it looks like a lovely colour.
Oh, it's a very throwback nose. That's real sort of, fruit from a few years ago.
Nice.
Really sweet, but not sickly, not like, say, a milkshake where they've put a lot of added stuff in.
Sometimes when we talk about fruitiness in a beer, people get like a little bit confused and think there's actually fruit in there. But of course, we're always talking about the aromas that come from the hops that are in the beer. So what are you getting from that?
Yeah, and as I say, sometimes you do with milkshake beers and other things, they do put pureed fruit in.
Yeah.
But this is pure hop. So very fruity nose, sort of your tropical fruit, melon, mango, pineapple. Taste-wise, not nearly as fruity. It's actually more that, I'd say it's the balancing of the Motueka and the Riwaka there, because it is a bit dank. But Nelson Sauvin's quite muted. I don't get loads of white grape. I get a bit, but it's very nicely balanced. It's a very, very nice beer. I like it a lot.
It's nice, isn't it, when you sort of know in your mind what it should taste like, so the hop combination, and then it delivers on those fronts. And that sounds like what that's doing.
Yeah, 100%. It delivers exactly what it promises to do, and it does it very well. And it makes me want to try more from them, although they are a nano beer, so they're not. They haven't got loads and loads of beers out there just yet.
Have you got other beers from them, or just that one?
No, they just sent me this one.
Does make you want to go and raid the web shop and get a few more in then?
It does.
Well, the guys at Bad Boy Brewing Co. have been kind enough to send over a voice note for us, so let's have a listen to what they say, and they can fill in some gaps with our knowledge of the brewery.
Hey guys, Dylan here from Bad Boy Brewing Co. in sunny Hastings, East Sussex. We're absolutely buzzing for you to try our celebratory rebrew of Aleph, our special collab with the legends at Collected Fictions, what we see as the best craft beer and natural wine spot in St Leonards-on-Sea. We brewed this one just in time for their 3rd birthday celebrations and is a 5.5% pale ale. It was a super fun one to brew, loaded with Nelson, Motueka and Rawaka hops. We're excited to hear what you think. You can catch us and our beer, obviously, at a handful of pop-up events in East Sussex this summer, including Brewer Brothers' 8th birthday bash on August the 24th, where we'll be pouring our popular Are We There Yet IPA and our latest collab pale ale, Zombie Nation, which was made with our mates at Brewer Brothers, all for the local punk rock legends Kid Capici. You can keep updated through our socials on Instagram at Bad Boy Brewing Co. and our Facebook page. Big cheers to Daftaboutcraft's Dave B and Dave D. Hope to see you all soon for a pint. Cheers.
Thanks very much to the guys there at Bad Boy. That's fascinating what goes on behind the scenes to bring us our beers, isn't it? Lovely to get an insight. So thanks to them for that voice note and everybody who sends these voice notes, because they're a really important part of what we do now, I think.
Yes, it's a good way of learning more about them and what might be coming up or how they came to be and stuff. They're very informative and hopefully don't take too long for them to do. This is 5.5%, by the way. Goes down really easy. Should point out we're recording this on a very warm day, a lovely warm day.
Yeah.
So pretty much anything would go down very nice. But that said, this is going down really well.
Sometimes you kind of think that, you need a session for when it's really hot, and it is hot. Is that okay? Is it not too strong?
That's a good point, actually. I wonder whether I'd need pint after pint of it at this strength. You know, if I was out in a beer garden, I think I'd probably start to feel it a bit. But in isolation, it works perfectly.
Big thumbs up then. Brilliant.
Definitely.
It's rare that we get a beer we don't like these days on this feature, which I love. It's great. I think that just shows you also that there's a hell of a lot of good brewers out there.
Yes, I agree with you. I think across the board, the standard is probably has never been higher. And also, just to point out, I don't think I touched on it at the start, but that collab is with Collected Fictions. Collected Fictions is a bottle shop in their local area, so that's right. Where that comes from.
I wondered if that was another brewery whose beer you were going to feature on the next episode.
I was hoping it was as well, but no, it's a beer shop. But you know,
excellent. Well, big shout out to them as well. Right, I'm going to show you a can, Dave. See which brewery this can reminds you of, because it reminded me of one straight away.
So, for visual medium, so it's a black and white can, and the first people I thought of for black and white was Black Iris.
Yeah, I can see why you said that. When I looked at it on the screen,
but it's not who I really think of.
There's some colour streaks in it as well. I know what you mean about the Black Iris, yes, but it reminded me, and it's the font as well, actually. I don't know whether you can see the font there. Maybe you can't see it very well. I can see it a little bit. It reminded
go on.
It reminded me of Dark Element.
Okay, yeah. There
is a bit of a link. Dark Element, they featured on the podcast a little while ago in Hype or Tripe. They're a brewery from Wales. This brewery is from Wales. Of course, I only ever seem to do Welsh breweries these days, but I think it just shows you there's a lot of small breweries there, and this is one of them. This is Cold Shelter Brew Co. And weirdly enough, they're from Caldicot, which is where Zulu Alpha, who featured on the last episode, come from. Who knew that such a small little place in Wales had 2 nano breweries there?
Yeah. Yes, you're really mining that the Welsh sort of hotbed of craft beer, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah, I love it. It's like a challenge now to always find another new one in Wales. And I've got one for the next episode as well, which is great fun. Well, look, this beer here is their very first beer that they released. I think they've done 4 so far. This was the first one. I touched on this recently on Brewed to Me. I think it was on the last episode, saying that a lot of these Welsh beers, they're so soft and pillowy and gentle.
We wondered if it's the water quality.
Well, you'll hear a bit more about the water quality in a little while when we listen to the voice note sent in. But again, really, really soft.
What type of beer have we got here then?
So this is a 6%.
Ooh.
So quite beefy, 6.2%, double dry hopped IPA.
Oh, right up my street.
With Citra, Strata, and Strata CGX, which I'm not too familiar with, but You can imagine.
No, I'm not. But Citra and Strata is a lovely combination. That is,
Yeah, that is going down very well. I'll say it again, these Welsh beers, the colour they get on these beers and the depth to them and the mouthfeel and all that, it's absolutely...
So what did you get then, as well as this beer? Did you get sent all of their beers that have done so far, or...?
I've got this one and their most recent one, and they were kind enough to send 2 of each, so I'll send 2 for you as well. So
yes, and you've got one of this from Bad Boy as well to get to you.
We're going to have to arrange a parcel swap very soon. I think these beers are mounting up. I've got you the Zulu Alpha ones to send as well. You would not guess this was a brewery's first beer. There's a lovely fruitiness to it. There's a dry and subtly bitter finish that brings you back in again. That's really nice. I'm fascinated to try their most recent one to see how that compares.
Yes.
But it's not like they've been going ages. Their first pour was in May.
Oh, wow.
So
how fascinating then, because obviously Dark Element started this year as well. Like, Wales seems to be the area that's popping up and really kicking on at the moment.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? And I think if you were to go up to most sort of craft beer fans, they wouldn't be aware of all the activity in Wales. So it's really great to be helping showcase what's going on there. Well, I could sit here waxing lyrical about this beer for another 10 minutes, but let's hand over to Jack from Cold Shelter, and he can tell us more about what they do there.
Hey guys, I'm Jack from Cold Shelter Brew Co. I co-own Cold Shelter with my friend Dan, and we are proudly brewing beers down in South Wales. We're both born and bred in a small town called Caldicot, just by the Severn Bridge, and it is actually the hometown of the brewery Zulu Alpha, which I believe you guys had on not so long ago, so I want to give those guys a big shout out. Our name, Cold Shelter, actually comes from our hometown Caldicot, so Caldicot in Old English is known as Calcot, which means cold hut or cold shelter, and actually has references in the Doomsday Book as cold shelter as well. After researching about things about our hometown, it was a very easy decision for us to choose Cold Shelter as our brewery name, and we've held on to that name for many, many years, going through homebrew after homebrew, and we've finally been able to take this opportunity and have an actual commercial brewery. We are actually a cuckoo brewery at the moment. For those that don't know, cuckoo brewers are brewers who don't actually have a brewery of their own. So what we do is we go and use other breweries' equipment and their premises when they're not using it or when they have space in their tanks. And that's how we get our beer out. We brew it ourselves, but we don't actually own our own location. We're currently brewing around 500 to 800 litres per brew, depending on the tanks and location of where we're brewing. And we're brewing at the moment about twice a month. Not very much. We are looking at moving up to 5 times a month soon with the addition of a new location, which is fantastic. But we are still young as a brewery. So our first pours were, I believe it was the 24th of May across Bank Holiday. And what we've done is we launched across 3 locations in South Wales. Weird Dad Brewery and Tap in Newport, State of Love and Trust in Cardiff, and of course our favourites, Beer Riff in Swansea. It was fantastic, and we had some great feedback for the first 2 beers we brought out, which was Ironfoot and Almost Home. They all sold out a long while ago, and actually the Ironfoot that you guys have in front of you is probably our last cans, and we took them from our personal stash in our storeroom, so I really hope you enjoy them. A lot of people have asked about our artwork, and we are super happy with the designs. Our designs are done by Lauren Johnson, who's a friend of ours. She's a tattoo artist, and she goes by the name Miss Ink on her socials. She's just done a fantastic job with our designs, keeping them on a pagan Nordic sort of style with a blend of Tolkien and moody darkness. We just have to give her artwork a huge shout out. We're really happy with how things look on the cans. And if you actually pick up our cans in the wild, you can actually scan a QR code and it'll take you to her page, and you can see all of her work and all of her tattoo designs, and a lot of love for Lauren. So the beers that we've managed to send you guys are Ironfoot and Moon Above, Moon Below. Ironfoot was our first ever beer, and being fans of Tolkien, we went for Ironfoot as a not so subtle nod to his stories and lore. We've been focused really on starting strong, straight out of the gate. So we went for a double dry hopped IPA, weighing in at 6.4%. The malt bill consists of flaked wheat and oats. Really gives you that mouthfeel, that creaminess that you'd expect from a hazy pale. And the hops that we've used in this beer is Citra, Strata, and Strata CGX. Super happy with this beer. Citra, as you know, you get those wonderful bright tropical aromas, while Strata sort of sits underneath this beer. It's got a strong grapefruit vibe. And I hate using the word dank, but I definitely feel like it's got that weed-like character, that vibe that balances it all out, and you get that right at the end on the finish. Just wraps it all up, and so I really hope you guys enjoy that one. The second beer we've sent you is Moon Above, Moon Below. It's a bit of a close one to my heart because the name for this beer we took from a book that I read my daughter every chance I get to do bedtime with her. Moon Above, Moon Below is a 6% double dry hopped IPA. We do other beers, I promise, but just the way our stock works, it appears that you've got 2 IPAs, very, very close ABV. So this one was actually increased oats and more heavily favoured on the flaked oats rather than the wheat. And we hopped this with Enigma, Idaho 7 and Azaka CGX. This is our newest beer, burst in again with those tropical notes from Azaka and from Idaho 7. But it's also got, subtle hints of that Nelson-esque gooseberry and white wine character from the Enigma, which I really like. Something that we've worked really hard on is our water profile for our beers. Wales has brilliant brewing water as a standard, really. So, like I said, we brew in multiple locations around South Wales, and no matter where we brew, we always seem to get this good quality brewing water, which just stands as a foundation for us to add our own minerals and build up our water profile. And we really think that adds to our mouthfeel, smoothness, creaminess that the wheat and oats then build upon. And we are really happy with these 2 beers and how they've turned out. Not to say that we won't keep on tinkering. I think that's always a brewer's prerogative to do that. But yeah, at the moment, we're really happy with how things are and are definitely a starting point considering this is our 4th brew. I just want to thank you guys for having us on and showcasing our beers. And thank you for showcasing all the other Welsh breweries as well. Welsh beer is 100% on the rise. It's been going really good over the past few years, and we're just happy to be a part of it. If anyone would like to find us on socials, you can find us at Instagram at Cold Shelter Brew Co. From there, we have a link tree, and that will take you to our website, which is coming soon, and also our emails if you have any further questions for us. We'd be more than happy to chat with you guys about Cold Shelter, about beer, and about our future plans. Yeah, thank you guys. Cheers.
Well, thanks a lot, Jack. So you heard there that Cold Shelter is actually a cuckoo brewery, so they're travelling around brewing at different venues. Now, it's hard enough when you've got your own brewery brewing on your own kit and getting consistency and getting the beer just how you want it. So when you're going around using other breweries' kits that you're not used to, and you can still knock out beers that good, that is impressive. And I can only think when they get their own kit to brew on, they're going to excel again.
Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit, yeah. I'm excited.
I think we both are, actually. I'm very much, going to keep in touch with the guys at Bad Boy and can't wait to try other bits of theirs. So I think it's 2 resounding successes for this episode.
Absolutely. Keep your eyes out for beers from Bad Boy and from Cold Shelter. And if you can get some, do. The bigger breweries, yeah, they need your support, but these little guys really need your support to get them on the ladder. And they're really talented brewers, we've just found out. So if you see their beers, get hold of them.
Daftaboutcraft.
Regular listeners to the podcast will remember that we talked to Breakbeat Brewing Mike a few episodes ago. And during the course of the conversation, Mike was telling us that he'd passed on a barrel of his to somebody else to use as they wanted. And lo and behold, the person who had that barrel got in touch with us, told us he was a big fan of the podcast, and we're now joined by David Goddard, who is the man with the barrel and will be setting up his very own brewery fairly soon. How are you doing, Dave?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Evening, guys.
This is a bizarre sort of circular story, this is. It's incredible. What's your sort of brewing background, and how did you get in touch with Mike? What's the link?
I mean, I've been brewing for sort of maybe 4 or 5 years. Started off with extract brewing, then sort of been doing all grain for the last sort of maybe 2.5 years. I go to 3 homebrew clubs, and one of them is the Butcher's Hook Homebrew Club in Southampton. And Mike lives very close to the homebrew club. So I found out about the barrel through the homebrew club, contacted him, and went over and purchased it off him.
Homebrew clubs are a massively rich source of really good brewers who go on to brew commercially.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Have you met other people in these clubs that have gone on to do good stuff?
The Butcher's Hook Homebrew Club, Jimmy from Unity was a member. And then obviously he went on to make Unity, and now he's at Metrics in Southampton. So yeah, I think it's quite common. You get that brewing bug, and having your own brewery is the next step.
And I guess that there's a lot of shared knowledge, and you all sort of spur each other on when you've got these ambitions to go on and set up a brewery.
We all sort of bring beers in and then almost sort of review them and then give tips on how we think we could possibly make it better. So you could all spur each other on. It's great.
So this beer that you sent us, this is the beer that went into Breakbeat's barrel. Have they tasted this at the Home Brew Club?
Yeah, they did last week, actually, funny enough.
Ah, right. And how did it go down?
Yeah, really, really good. A couple of guys from the Unity Brewing, because we're doing like a collaboration, like a homebrew sort of commercial brewery collaboration for a charity. So we're all going to brew a pale ale with Centennial in. Then we can choose 200 grams of hops, any hops we like, to put in as well. So they were there sort of talking about that, but they love the stout. They really liked it.
And are you personally into your stouts? Is that your thing? Is that what you like to drink?
Yeah, definitely. Imperial stouts and sort of like New England IPAs. That's my two things.
So this is a 13% bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout. Are you looking forward to this one, Dave?
Of all the beers to start putting in perhaps a wider circle, like you say, you've been brewing for a few years and everything. I'm sure you've sent other beers to the brewing clubs and that. But this, it's a bold statement to be sort of coming out with a massive stout, as this is the one that everyone should be trying. What was sort of the thinking? Like, is this the first ever beer you've barrel aged as well?
Yeah, the first beer I barrel aged. I've sort of done maybe 4 or 5 iterations of like the imperial stout, making it sort of like sweeter and maybe a bit more roasty and tweaking it each time.
Dave's pulling faces. I think he's pulling faces because he
Is that good or bad?
I know.
That's good. I think that's good.
It is good. The bourbon's there, but it's not OTT. And I know you just said roasty in that. I don't get much roastiness, but it does taste a bit coffee, but it's almost sort of more milky coffee, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It stands up very well.
That is really smooth, isn't it? Really smooth, full of flavour, really well-rounded and balanced. Are you sure this is your first barrel-aged beer?
It was definitely my first barrel-aged beer.
How long did this spend in the famous barrel from Breakbeat?
It was in there 5 months. I was told to maybe check it after 3 months because obviously the surface area is larger, so in comparison to how much liquid's in there. So, normally you're looking at like a year.
What Breakbeat beer was in here before you? Because you can sort of get, like, I know we've had other people on like Epochal and they talk about, the barrel, it will pick up what was in there before and everything. I'm not saying it necessarily does, but it's just interesting to know what the life of the barrel has been so far in beer.
He had a Imperial Stout in there also.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it had bourbon in there before Mike put it in. And then I got it. I then put a litre of bourbon in there to freshen up the barrel, if you like. Okay. And then obviously emptied it out first and then put my stout in there.
It's not massively overpowering on the bourbon side of things, though, at all, is it? It's really quite subtle. It's nice.
It doesn't taste 13% either.
Down the whole bottle, Dave. See if you think it tastes 13% then.
Well, we did have this last time, didn't we, when I drank something that was 8 and a bit, and that hit me at the end. So you bottled this. How many bottles did you get out of it?
About 45 bottles, I think it was.
And how many have you got left?
I've got about 30 left, I think.
So are you going to keep some of these bottles ready for when you're fully fledged and you're up and running as a proper brewery?
I'm not sure. I'd like to say yes, but I think they might be gone by then.
Yeah. So how long are we talking? How long do you think it's going to be before we see your sort of name up in lights and your brewery up and running?
I'm not too sure. I mean, it's just finding a premises at the moment. We viewed sort of quite a few places now, but I'm waiting for the perfect place. But hopefully this year. I'm hoping maybe next year.
And it's worth telling listeners that you've got your kit, but tell everybody where it is at the moment.
Yeah, so it's a 12 hec kit that I bought from Sure Shot Brewery in Manchester, and they're looking after the kit till I'm ready. They're a great bunch of guys.
It's in very safe hands, I think, up there.
Yeah, definitely.
You've already got the name for your brewery as well, haven't you? So you've got the kit and the name. What's it going to be called?
At the moment, it's going to be called Trapped Under Ice Brewing.
And where does that come from?
It's actually named after a Metallica song.
Oh, okay, right.
I hope Metallica don't come after me, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this happens a lot in craft beer, doesn't it?
Yeah, I have to keep an eye out. Find out before I get the signs made.
So you're really in the very first throes of your journey. Where do you want it to go to?
I've always wanted to own a bar for many years, and then I started brewing, and then I wanted a bar and a brewery. So if I could just have a nice tap room, mainly brewing for the tap room, I'd be so happy working in there a few nights a week. And then if distribution picked up, then that would be a bonus.
Touch wood, you've got the kit. You just need to find the premises and it will all come together. But we've spoken to plenty of breweries and it's not the easiest thing to do and hasn't been for a little while. How challenging are you finding it sort of getting going? Is it like it's a lovely dream to have, but actually the reality is really, really hard work? Or is it you can get there type thing?
It's my dream. So I just think I'm going to do it no matter what. But licensing and doing all the projections of costs and things, that's been quite tricky. I guess I've got the trickiest part to come, actually the setup. But I'm going to enjoy it. I'm looking forward to it.
What's your background before sort of going into this?
I sort of maintain pumps and things. So, that can be useful in the brewing industry.
So have you sort of going around into breweries in your area and getting a bit of experience of the brewing industry and seeing how it all works? And
I started off like volunteering at beer festivals and in bars. Then I started having part-time jobs in the few bars. Staggeringly good in Portsmouth. I worked there sort of part-time at a lot of the festivals. And the Butcher Stick in Southampton. Maverick in Borden. Martin in there, he's had me up there brewing a few times. I brewed at Siren the other day in Reading. Disruption.
Yeah, I know those guys.
Disruption is, I like that.
Yeah, getting about in the local sort of scene, it's good.
And it's actually a really good scene. It almost feels like it gets a little bit overlooked. I think people sort of think of Unity and maybe staggeringly good, but there's loads of breweries down there, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
And what would you sort of be looking to do in your brewery? Obviously, I think we can safely say you can do a bourbon and barrel-aged stout. Would we be going into your tap room and it's just big stouts, or are you going to cover the sort of whole range?
Yeah, I'd like to cover the whole range. I think I'd like to have quite a few sort of different hazy pales and New England IPAs, like cover all the different flavours, like mango one, pineapple one, and just brewed one with Sabro in. So you probably won't like that one.
He's coming round slowly he's getting to like it.
There's only a little bit of Sabro at the end, and I really like it. It's just a hint of Sabro. Cover all the hazies.
Nice.
Definitely always have an imperial stout, and I'd like to have a couple of lagers on and some Belgian beers.
I think this is what you've got to do. You've got to cover all bases so you can attract everybody to your tap room. If you just attract imperial stout lovers, it's not going to last too long.
I think it's really important to have a lot of guest beers on as well. I definitely want to do that. There's a lot of things to think about.
Are you doing this sort of alone? Is it a wife or girlfriend involved, or
my wife's involved?
We love it when there's a couple involved.
Yeah, husband and wife teams are generally the best we find at sort of doing this. So when it all gets up and running, are you sort of hoping straight away it's going to be end of the day job and this is the job, or are you going to try and carry on doing both for a bit?
I do love my job, so if I could keep doing my job sort of Monday to Friday, and then maybe have the tap room on a Friday and Saturday, and then maybe a Thursday. It's good to have the options there.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a question I've asked before to people. Do you sort of worry that once you make it a proper business, you might lose a bit of love for the passion you have for it? Yeah,
it is a worry. I mean, I spoke to a lot of brewers that have sort of said similar things. I've also spoke to a few brewers that have said the opposite. They're like, no, I still love it. I love all the aspects of it. A lot of people actually enjoy the business side of it as well. So hopefully I'll be like that. You
probably got one of the best people to talk to about that as well with Mike, because when he came on, Dave and I got a little bit starstruck when it sort of turned out that he used to be a DJ who DJ'd around the world, which is 20-year-old me, that was my dream job, and he sort of said, well, yeah, it was all right, but by the end he was sort of doing it a bit, but sort of soured on it. So it was fascinating to hear that kind of thing, and hopefully you won't get that with the brewing. As you say, some people do it and they absolutely love it, and it doesn't become the 9 to 5.
Yeah, I think you can mix it up. I think you can, if it's that successful, you can employ someone to work in the brewery, brewing maybe sort of like the brews that you brew all the time, and then maybe you could come in, recipe development and help with the brewing of things that a bit of like the one-off sort of thing. I've seen a couple of people do that sort of thing. It seems to work.
Do you like the sort of recipe development kind of stuff? So you're coming up with new ideas. Is that what gets you going?
Yeah, I love it. If I'm not brewing, I'm making recipes on my phone, tweaking things, and I've got like 10, well, probably more than that, like maybe like 30 recipes on my phone that are ready to go.
And have you made a beer so far that you are 100% happy with, or you still always want to tweak something?
I don't think that can happen. You always want to tweak it. There's always something.
I guess that's what happens with the bigger breweries. They can't necessarily keep tweaking it. They've got to get it to a point where they're happy and then stick with it because their customers expect it to taste like it tastes.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I guess when you're small, you've got that flexibility, haven't you, to keep on changing it.
Yeah, so the guys on that one last time, is it Brothers Brewing in Hastings? And they were saying they keep tweaking things. They tweak every time.
We've yet to really find anybody who stops tweaking things. To be honest, they can't help themselves.
Yeah.
If you're a brewer, you're experimental, aren't you? You that's what you do.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think even if you've got your core range, I think over time you're going to change a little bit.
I don't know what you do to change this particularly. It's a very, very good beer. It's really impressive. You planning to do another barrel age now you've done this? Would you use the same barrel again, or you?
Yeah, I've got like a maintenance sort of solution in the barrel. So I think if I was going to do another flavour, I'd have to put that flavour in there first. Like if I was going to do bourbon, I'd have to put a few litres of bourbon in there, swish it around for quite a while to get the flavour in there again.
That's interesting.
I could potentially buy another barrel, I think that's the route I'm going to go down.
Although, as we found, they are not, depends what you want, but you can sort of name your price for how much you want to pay for one, isn't it?
Yeah. The barrel I've got, I'm thinking I might put a sour in there, which I've never done. So that would be interesting.
That would be interesting. Well, if you do it, let us know, because I'd love to be tasting that. I was going to say, if somebody had given me this beer blind and said, look, we're not going to tell you who made this, I would never guess that it was somebody who was making their first barrel-aged beer. No way. There's no clue there at all, is there?
I think if you gave it to me blind, the brewery that has sort of come into my head in the last few minutes is who I'd say it is Nerd. So I'd hope that's a compliment.
Oh, nice.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. They're fantastic.
I see where you're going with that, actually, yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
The more I'm drinking it, it's just building now. Like, it was initially quite smooth. It's still very smooth, but the strength's starting to creep up. I know I'm drinking a 13%.
It's starting to hit you now, yeah?
Yeah, I know I'm drinking an imperial stout now. Like I knew at the start, but now it's warming up. I think there was a bit more flavour coming out. The bourbon's coming out a little bit. It's not gone in a fridge since it arrived. I've kept it at room temperature, but I think it's just breathing a bit more and there's more coming through, which is, again, testament to the brewing. So well played.
Thank you very much.
So when you get the brewery up and running, which, as we've said, will hopefully be this year, have you got a sort of strategy with how it will kick off? Some people will start off doing a series of collabs with people. Other breweries will have 2 or 3 beers ready to roll straight away. Or have you not really thought that far ahead?
Yeah, I've been thinking about the collab route. Do a few collabs, purchase the kegs of those beers, and then rely on guest beers. That's the plan so far.
Makes sense, because you don't want to be breaking your own back to try and fill all these lines. If you get somewhere that's property that's, say, got 12 lines on, you've suddenly got to find 12 beers. It makes far more sense to fill 25% of them yourself and then bring in others just to take the load off and get you up and running, and most importantly, get sales in, money in the till.
Yeah.
So when it comes to starting a business, it's kind of levelled out a little bit, hasn't it, with the gas and all these things that were going up and up and up. But does that worry you, that this is a really difficult time to be starting a business? Or do you take the view that if I can make it work in this climate, I can make a real go of it?
Yeah, a bit of both, really. I think I'm a little bit worried. You see breweries disappearing sort of like all the time, but then I think if you truly love it and you've got the right sort of model, I'm not doing it to make money. I mean, I've got my full-time job that can sort of supplement the brewery to a certain extent as well. So, and I'll be doing what I love. As a home brewer, I'm giving my beers to all my friends. It's just like a sort of like a bigger version of that. I can get my beers out to loads of people, which would be great.
That's a nice way to view it, isn't it? Like a bigger version of homebrewing, basically. I like that.
If it pays for itself and a little bit, then that's amazing. I can do that for many, many years and be happy.
Yeah, I get the impression that this is something that you love doing and you just want to take it to the next level. If you can make it wash its face and make a few quid out of it, fair enough, but the motivation is not money. It's literally doing something for the love of it.
Exactly.
Which in itself is quite refreshing. I think we still manage to find people like that, but I think there is a bit of a thing within craft beer at a certain level now, but it is just business. Like, it's the 9 to 5. It's chucking the stuff onto the shelves to get sold, and that's it. It's just a business. It's not got the soul anymore, I guess. Yeah, I think I can definitely tell that you still, nowhere near that. You just want to sell beer to people and enjoy watching them drink it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think when you get to a certain level, it's hard to have that personal sort of enjoyment with it.
Yeah, when it's Northern Monk and they're brewing 24 hours a day and it's shift brewing and things. That's not to knock Northern Monk. It's just an example. But exactly. They were small. Now they're not. But there's room for everyone. But this is more enjoyable.
So we're always keen to know what brewers like to drink in their spare time. What's your go-to? What do you enjoy drinking the most?
I love drinking New England IPAs after work because I feel like I can't really knock back a few imperial stouts sort of on a Wednesday. So yeah, New England IPAs through the week, but the weekends definitely are sort of imperial stouts.
And what's your sort of go-to venue down in your area? Where would you go? Where would you head to for a drink if you weren't drinking at home?
Local to me, I've got. Have you heard of Steamtown?
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
that's like my local craft beer sort of place. And in Southampton, you've got so many places. Obviously, the Butcher's Hook I mentioned earlier, Bottle and Stoke in Southampton. Yeah, there's quite a lot of places.
So, if you sort of prime these outlets, what your plans are and what you're going to hopefully be doing?
I have started to, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
Tell them what's coming.
So, have you got any sort of social media presence as it stands at the moment? Can people follow you and see what you're up to?
Yeah, I've got Facebook and Instagram, Trapped Under Ice Brewing. It's obviously not very professional. It's just like, I put pictures of me brewing on there and pictures of the finished beer and, just all the festivals we go to, and if I have a good beer, I might sort of give it a little review on there.
I think people love to see that, the behind the scenes, rough and ready behind the scenes. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
This beer we've been lucky enough to sample, and thank you very much for that. What's the sort of next one what have you got in the works at the moment?
I've got the Unity competition beer, which is going to be...
So what hops did you go for?
Obviously, it's got Centennial in, and I went for Idaho 7 and Citra.
Nice.
So it's going to be sort of like a mountain IPA, sort of like a Westy kind of New England sort of.
We've talked a little bit about mountain IPAs recently, as you've probably heard on the podcast. All of a sudden, they're getting more and more popular.
I really, really enjoy them. So I like a juicy sort of dress. Well, I love the New Englands, but I do like a little bit of a bitter bite to it. So yeah. Mountain IPAs is definitely for me.
Next big thing, Dave, mountain IPAs.
When's that going to be going live?
I'm going to be brewing it next week. So a few weeks' time.
That's a really interesting conversation to think it all came from somebody who got a barrel from somebody else who was on the podcast. I love that. It's such a roundabout story. We're there right at the start of a new brewery that's hopefully by the end of the year going to be up and running. So we're really invested in your story now. We want to see you do really well. If you maintain that passion and take it through, I think you're going to do really well.
Yeah, 100%. I think passion will actually get you quite a long way, and it gets you a long way in an industry like this. Not only that, you can definitely brew. I'm looking forward to trying an IPA of yours, because I'd probably go down more of an IPA drinker than I would be a stout drinker, but that's really good. So I can't wait to see what you can do with an IPA.
Up to you guys.
No, look forward to it, and look forward to coming to see what the premises looks like at some point.
I'll tell you what we'll do. Now we've both really enjoyed this. If you send us the next one that you brew, we'll drink it on the future episode, be it the next one or the one after, and we'll do you a review on there. We could do it as hype or tripe, Dave, couldn't we?
We could indeed, yeah, and we would pay as well, just to say free notice.
Yeah, no free beers required. Great. Look, we wish you all the very best anyway, and we shall catch up with you again at some point in the future, and we'll be watching you closely.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Cheers, Dave. Brilliant.
Daftaboutcraft.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of listeners use Untapped and other websites like that to keep an eye on what they've been drinking, keep a record. We do too. And what we do every episode is have a look back at what we've been drinking and find our favourite beer since the last episode. And we call this section Tried and Tested. Dave B, what have you been enjoying since episode 62?
Well, interestingly, I haven't got nearly as many check-ins as I thought I did, but I've definitely been enjoying beers. So I've either had repeats or have forgotten or quite what. But anyway, I did make it out on a Thursday night. I went out with a mate and we went to the Fat Cat in Ipswich. And for those who know, there's a Fat Cat in Ipswich, there's a Fat Cat in Norwich, there's one in Chelmsford. They have a few places. They would be more primarily cask. However, this was on cask.
It was a hazy IPA in cask.
Nice.
We've talked about this before, about how good that can be. This was no exception, to the point that I had 4 pints when I went out. First 2 were okay. I had this, and then I had it again, and I would have had it again if time hadn't been calling to get back to make sure I could still get up in the night if needed and go to work the next day. So
still walk, yeah.
I have had a 3 acre beer before. Yeah, I've had a 3 acre beer before. I can't remember when. Had it in can, looking at what I said on my check-in, and I don't really remember it, but I do remember this. It was that lovely combination of really soft, really full, a really good hazy IPA, but coming off a hand pull. It was 5.3%, which I didn't actually realise at the time. And I think if I'd have had one more, I might have been in a little bit of bother because it did. Apparently, I snored very loudly that night, so hit the spot.
It is a sad byproduct of snoring as you get older and older, I'm afraid, Dave.
Yeah, no, I'm not that bad at it, but if you want me to snore, give me a lot of beer and it'll definitely happen. But 3 acre, they're based down in East Sussex, and it was great to see a brewery like that having a cask in Ipswich. Cloud Drifter, 3 acre brewery, that was my tried and tested.
Well, this is really weird because we don't collaborate on this at all. We just do it blind like this. And my tried and tested since our last episode was also a beer on cask, on hand pull, and this is in our local pub, and it was from Wansome Brewery in Kent. Now, our local pub, you've been in there, you had cider in there when you came, because often their selection isn't that great. Now, we went in, and I thought, Wansome, I know that, they've got quite a good reputation, I'm going to try this. And it was called Hurricane, and it was full, it was hazy, it was everything we like in a beer, but it was out of a hand pull, and because I'm not used to drinking great beers in this pub, it really blew me away and stuck in my mind. Really, really impressive. And I actually put on Untapped their best cask pint in a good while. And really impressed. I could have picked out other beers, but that one sticks in my mind for those reasons I just said. So yeah, want some. And I want to find out more about them actually, 'cause they're on my radar. We follow them on social media, but don't know a great deal about them. So perhaps we should check them out, Dave. Now, Dave, I'm told that you have a top rant.
I've noticed there's this growing trend, and it's annoying me, of breweries are releasing a beer that is popular year on year, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the new trend is you now release a dialed down version of said beer, and then you release a slightly amplified set of said beer, which means you have 3 beers. I understand it fully. I get it. From a drinking and needing to buy these beers, and obviously I don't have to buy these beers, and I haven't. Personally, I think it's lazy, and it annoys me. You've obviously made a lot of this beer, and you're making it at one rate, and then you're going to reduce the gravity a little bit and up it on the other end to give yourself 3 beers. And as I say, I completely understand the logistics of it. I caveat all this with I'm not buying them, so it is a little bit angry man yells at cloud because he can, but I just find it irritating. I just think it's a bit, you needed to release X amount of beers this week, so you're just doing 2 different versions of the same beer on the ABV. Like, that's not necessarily very exciting.
I love it. Dave B gets mad. I want more of it. Bring it on.
What do you think?
I agree. Yeah, don't be so lazy. Don't release 3 versions of the same beer. I'm not interested. Give me 3 different beers. There are a lot of guilty parties out there who do this. We're probably not their target audience, probably not, but, I mean, come on. Having said that, I remember when we did Boxcars Milds, they did 3 different milds, and we did them. There was a 3%, 6%, and a 10% or something like that. That was interesting.
Exactly, and I think doing a double and a essentially triple mild, that is interesting because you should be getting different things. Using the same hops, but just changing the ABV, I don't see how that's very interesting.
Yeah, come on, pull your socks up, you brewers. We want no more of this nonsense. Different beers, please. Some lovely sours as well for me. Yeah, no, actually, good rants. Good top rants there, Dave.
You're listening to Dave B and Dave D on Daftaboutcraft.
Well, it was recently brought to our attention that a top 50 has been compiled. Top 50 UK Beer Awards, in fact. A list compiled by the Craft Beer Festival organiser and industry specialist, We Are Beer. And we thought it'd be fun to talk you through those beers. We're not going to do all 50 because that's a bit tedious and nobody wants to listen to 50 beers being reeled off. But we're going to give you the countdown from number 20 to number 1 and just a few observations as we go along. Dave, what's at number 20?
At number 20, we have Burning Sky with Petite Saison, a beer I've not had, but I like Burning Sky, so I have no issue with this.
Number 19 is Jarl from Fine Ales, a standard, which you see all over the place. Yeah, that's fine.
Number 18, Harvey's Brewery Sussex Best. I might have had this years ago. What's it doing on this list?
And the same goes for number 17. You can strike that right off. It's proper job from St Austell at 17.
Yeah, no knock on St Austell, who actually have some interesting stuff which I flagged to you a couple of weeks ago, which we should perhaps have a look at, but this beer wasn't among them.
No.
16, Beak Parade. Now, Beak, I like a lot. They've got better and better and better, in my opinion. I will certainly always look to get a Beak beer if I'm placing an order in a bottle shop or if I'm in one, for example.
Number 15, Vocation, those giants of the north. Love and hate. Yeah, okay, it's one of the beers that got me into it. Fair enough.
14, Siren, Lumina. Similar comments apply, really. I've got no issue with Siren. I've got no issue with Lumina.
Number 13, Northern Monk's Faith. Love Faith. We've actually featured it on the podcast before. Stop doing different versions of Faith with Northern Monk. Just do the Faith. One version. That's fine on its own.
12 could easily be number 1. Colonel Table Beer. I mean, come on. What's that doing outside the top 10 at least?
That absolutely. And well, I mean, especially when you see the beer that's above it, Neckall from Beavertown. No, get out of the top 20. You shouldn't be in there.
10, Track Sonoma. Yep, fair enough. I got no issue with that. Sonoma's a lovely beer.
Absolutely. Jaipur from Thornbridge. They've recently done a Jaipur Noir. Not sure about the black version of it. Jaipur's fine. Not sure it should be in the top 10 though from Thornbridge.
8, 5 points best. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I had any 5 points, and this seems like it's probably a best bitter. I don't know the beer, and I don't really know what it's doing at number 8.
Do you want it?
Not really.
Light Bulb from Verdant Brewing Co. is at number 7. Yeah, it's everywhere. It's fine.
Number 6, Paisy Jane Brewdog. I mean, ugh.
Number 5, London Black from Anspach and Hob Days. Craft beer's answer to Guinness. Yeah, it's nice. Top 5 best beers in the country. It's good. It's not that good.
Number 4, I mean, sublime to ridiculous here. Camden Hells. I mean, geez Louise, like...
I mean, they've said it there. They've spelt it Hells. Yes, exactly. It is hell. What is it doing there?
Yeah.
Same for number 3. Timothy Taylor's Landlord. No. Get out of my list. You're not in the top 3. You shouldn't be anywhere near.
Number 2, Lost and Grounded, Keller Pills. Yeah, okay. Number 2, no, but okay.
Well, they have heard it through from number 20 to number 2. The We Are Beer, best beers in Britain. Yeah. But you haven't heard number 1 yet, so let's reveal it. Let's do the big reveal. It is, of course, Deya's Steady Rolling Man. What do you make of that then, Dave?
It is a good beer. You do well to get a bad Steady Rolling Man. It's always going to do the job. If you go in a pub and it's all a bit meh, but they've got Steady Rolling Man, which increasingly is happening now.
It is.
You'd sort of go, okay, I know what I'm getting. It's fine. Is it number 1? Probably not, but
maybe.
I can see the logic for this.
I guess maybe for your average consumer. But this beer, this list is a beer. It's a craft beer list.
Yeah, there's some very wonky ones in there, as we sort of highlighted just in the top 20.
There's some ridiculous wonkiness going on, and also so many breweries producing beers that are so much better than all of those 20 who don't get a mention anywhere in the top 50.
Yep.
Hope you enjoyed it. Your thoughts are always welcome, so email us, get in touch on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, if you see another list and you'd like to hear that again, just send it and we'll happily do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now it's time for Hype or Tripe.
Well, we hope you're enjoying episode 63 of Daftaboutcraft. If you listened to the last episode, you'll have heard our Hype or Tripe feature where we showcased a hop called Kahia Nelson, which is a new hop variant, and we tried a beer from Flock. And, well, neither Dave or I were that impressed with the hop in that particular beer. So what we've done, as we said we would, we've sought out another beer with the same hop, and we're going to road test that now on our latest Hype or Try. Now, this beer comes from Hackney Church Brewing, whose beers I haven't had much of. I had a little bit in Liverpool when I was up at Beer X in March, but other than that, I've not really had any of their stuff. What about you, Dave?
No, this they could have been a brew to me for myself. I'd not had any of it. I ordered, like you did, 6 beers, I think. Did you order 6?
5 or 6, yeah. Whatever it was to get the free postage, yeah.
Yeah. And so far, really impressed.
Yeah, me too.
Really good brewery. So I'm quite hopeful that, and I don't think Flock would have done anything wrong with the hop, but I'm quite hopeful that if it's going to be good, there's every chance these guys are going to be able to do it, because what I've had so far from what I bought, I'm very pleased with.
Yeah, so the beer we've got, it's called Things Can Only Get Wetter. Obviously a nod to Things Can Only Get Better, the massive 90s hit from D-Ream.
How very topical now we have a Labour government.
Exactly, yeah. And this is a hazy IPA, 6.3%, not insubstantial on the ABV there.
No, and it's worth saying that obviously when we had Flock's version, that was a single hop.
Yeah, it was, and I think we made the point that it might be better if it was surrounded by other hops, and that's what we've got now.
Yeah, so here we've got not only Kahia Nelson, we've got Strata and Chinook. And they say on the can, expect masses of passion fruit with underlying citrus complexity and a fantastically fresh finish.
Not a massive fan of Chinook, but for me it can be a little bit sort of bitter and earthy, but let's see what this is like with several hops in there all doing their thing.
Just also worth pointing out, they said on the can, don't forget to vote. Now, I think this came out a fair way before the general election, but I suspect it is voter related. So.
Oh, there we are then, yeah, makes perfect sense.
Crikey, that's a sweaty socks nose. I don't know about you.
Yeah, so, yes, it is. It's a sweaty socks nose, so yeah, that's your Nelson. So this Kahia Nelson, as we said last time, it's a variant of Nelson Sauvin. Nelson Sauvin is the hop that people often say is quite grapey. My wife, for regular listeners, will know she says it smells like a PE changing room, and yeah, I don't think she's wrong, really.
No, not at all. Okay, so my immediate impression is I don't think I like this hop, having had one mouthful of it.
Yeah.
Crikey, this is dank. This is really, really dank. That Chinook, which I know you're not a fan of, I get that. The Strata, I think, is trying desperately to add in a bit of sort of level it all off, but it's not. I think it's buckling under the weight.
I think the Strata is struggling to make it through the noise above it, to be honest.
Cool, yeah, that is an acquired taste isn't fair, because there are people who like their hazies sweaty and danky and
some people love it.
And oniony and whatnot. That's well in that.
Yeah, if you love all that stuff, you're going to be off your nut on this. It's amazing, yeah. But for us, I'll drink it obviously because it's there, but I wouldn't be seeking out that. It's the hop, isn't it? We don't like this hop.
Yeah, I think after 2 mouthfuls, I think that's not even a sort of quick decision. I think that is it, bang on. This hop, if you'd like, I'm surprised I haven't seen a Verdant beer with this yet.
Yeah, you will.
But this seems like that. You know, if you like track and field from those guys from back in the day, or, you know, we talked about putty ad nauseum, but it's along those lines, isn't it? This is proper dank.
Yeah, having had this now, and then you think back to that beer we had on the last episode from Flock, I think they've both done a good job with the beers they've made. It's just that this hop is not for us. And also, it's a bit like what you were saying earlier, isn't it? Breweries, stop making different versions of the same beer. Hop makers, stop making different versions of the same hop. We're okay with the original one, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, for every Nectaron, which is a success, I would say, or... there's a hop you really like, which came out.
Superdelic was I like.
Superdelic, yeah, I've had a little bit of that and I don't mind it. But for every one of those, I guess it's part of the process. You get Kahia Nelson, which, you know, doesn't do a lot for me. But equally, I suppose, is that just part of craft beer? Because otherwise, there's only so much brewers can do with Citra Mosaic and Simcoe. And also, speaking to brewers as we do, they love tinkering and they love the new, don't they? So
I'd really love to, and maybe this is something we can look at for the next episode, I'd really love to get a brewer's take on this hop. actually, to see what they think of it. Because just because they've brewed with it doesn't mean they like it.
Yes, it's probably quite interesting, actually. We found a Kohai Nelson beer relatively easy,
Yeah.
but we weren't drowning in a sea of options, were we?
And that kind of makes you think that brewers generally like to stick to what they know. They do take a chance sometimes, like with Superdelic.
Yeah. If you search Kohai Nelson on Google, so top is freestyle hops,
Yeah.
sort of explaining the hop. Next is Flock's beer, which we've had.
Right,
Next here is, again, this hops website with the pellets.
right.
Next is a New Zealand Pale Ale from a brewery called The Three Legs, and I'm going to shotgun them now because it says .co.uk.
Oh,
I've
nice.
not heard of them, so that could be a brew to me.
This is how these things come about, by the way. We just find breweries just like this, organic.
And next, Daftaboutcraft, episode 62.
Oh, really? Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
It's good to
couldn't
know
make it up. So
our SEO's working well, Dave. Excellent. You have to give a bonus to our SEO people. I think this beer is a more dialed down version of what we had from Flock, but then it will be because there's two other hops in there with it.
that and the Flock was a dipper, and this is. I mean, I say this is. It's still actually quite weighty. It's 6.3%, isn't it? So it's just not for either of us, is it? It's one of those. If you went to Hackney Churches and had this, you'd want a half. Like the can is a 440, and it feels enough.
Yeah.
I don't think it's badly brewed, the same as I don't think... Now, yeah, I didn't necessarily think Flock's was badly brewed, but I didn't like how it had come out. But now I've had two examples of it, which is exactly why we said we'd do this. It's just not a hop that I necessarily want.
Well, it's not hype, is it? It's not on the hype train at all.
Not for us, but I'd be really interested if anyone out there has had some Kohai Nelson or equally likes the sound of it and goes and seeks some out and let us know what you think.
Well, I think about it. We started the episode talking about Craft Brew Festival in Birmingham, giving a shout out to podcast listeners who'd come up to me. Must just mention that festival again because there were some really interesting breweries there. It was staged over the second weekend in July. And there was a few breweries that really caught the eye. One of them is called Kin Brewery, and I've already spoken to these guys. They're going to come on the podcast as well. It's Kin, as in brothers. There's three brothers who run this setup.
Not to be confused with Alkin.
But yeah, not to be confused with Alkin. This is Kin, and they put a twist on it with Kynn. But yeah, hopefully they'll be coming on the podcast at some point. They were really interesting. Just trying to think what other breweries was there. The Indian Brewery in Birmingham, they were there. Now, I bet you've not heard of them, have you?
I'm not, and I hear that, and it makes me think: is this a pairing to go with food?
Well, right. So they've got a place underneath Snow Hill Station in Birmingham, and they do a lot of food in there, and the food is magnificent, and obviously it pairs very well with their beers. So yeah, you're spot on, really. We often go in there for food, and the food is really good. In fact, look, next time you come, we need to go in there. But they've just opened they're just about to actually in August to open a new brewery just round the corner from their current place, and it is huge. I peeked through the windows a few times, and the tanks in there are massive. They've got all sorts of equipment in there. There's a lot of money gone into this. So next time you come up, we should go in there. They're going to have a bar with 20 plus lines, not just their own beers, but other people's as well. So yeah, it's lovely to sort of meet these people at festivals and get a bit of an inside edge of what they're doing. Neighbourhood Brew Co., who I know avidly listen to the podcast. You had them on your Brew to Me, didn't you?
Friends of the podcast. See, it's things like this. We've talked about it before. You say that, and now my first thought is I should probably place an order with them. I haven't had any of their beers for a little while, and I really enjoy them.
Well, yeah. I mean, their beers are really good. When I see them at these festivals, I always sort of make a beeline for them and go and try whatever they've got. Really enjoy drinking their beers and speaking to those guys. Also there was another brewery who's featured on the podcast, Disruption is Brewing from Camberley in Surrey.
Who have cans down the road in Ipswich now.
Excellent, really. That's really cool. So the last weekend in July, it was their 5th birthday, and the guys there were kind enough to pop me on the guest list, so we hot-footed it down the M40 for a 300-mile round trip to Surrey.
I was going to say, if anyone ever wants to know Dave's commitment to craft beer, a Saturday Okay, it's a day of leisure. What did you do on your Saturday, Dave?
Well, we got in the car and drove 300 miles to Disruption is Brewing for their 5th birthday party.
But that's not quite the whole story.
No, there was more to it than that as well. So there was 2 sessions, right? So the first session ran from midday till 5. We got there at about 3:15, I think, because the traffic was hideous.
Yeah, and also a long way away.
And it's also a long way, yeah. M25. We don't really do the M25, but we got embroiled in that and it was busy. Anyway, we got there, went in, and there was a guy singing, and I thought, I recognise this guy. And it was the guy that has been singing at the craft brew festivals. They'd obviously found him there and realised he was really good, and they got him on at Disruptionist Brewing. So that was nice. It was sort of familiar face as we went in. And then we went upstairs to the tap room. They've got 3 different birthday beers on. So we tried those. And it's just nice because I've sort of met these people at the craft brew festivals, and we had them on the podcast, and now I know them, and I've been to the tap room. It's lovely to sort of see a detailed look at the business. You know, we have them on the podcast and we hear a few words from them, but to then see more is really revealing.
But then obviously you've done that. You've been there, what, 2 hours, 3 hours?
No, a couple of hours. So normal people would say, let's go home now.
Yeah, we've got a journey back on the M25. We've got to get back up. Well, we'll get home, have dinner.
Well, to put this into context, I drove there, and I always think if I drive there, somebody else should drive back. That seems fair, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So Lisa obviously drove back, and now there was another 5th birthday going on that same weekend, and it was Glass House in Birmingham. Now, I went to the tap room when Glass House opened their tap room 5 years ago. So I kind of wanted to pop in for their 5th birthday too. So instead of coming home, we went to the Glass House tap room in Birmingham.
I mean, it makes sense when you say it, but at the same time, I have nothing but respect for it because I'd love to be doing the same. And it's good that you do, I think. And was it good?
Yeah, it was great. I tell you what, there was a lot of people there. There's a lot of love for Glass House and Sturchley in Birmingham. Really
is it's still the same place where we went?
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, because you've been there. Yeah. It was it was warmer because it was boiling.
It was freezing when we went, wasn't it? But for those that don't know where it is, it's a bit like you're trespassing.
It is, but now they've opened up the doors on the canal towpath so you can walk through there. You don't have to do the long way round thing
through the industrial estate where you're a bit worried that either security cameras or a guard dog are going to get you before you get there.
No,
it's about as industrial as it comes as a setting, but it's great, but it's working. It's
really interesting because they've had that same setup since they started, and the only thing that's changed is there's more people there now and more tables. You know, it works for them. It really works for them. So that was my Saturday. 300 miles touring around the country, going to craft breweries' 5th birthday parties.
Yeah, my Saturday involved watching my son in a paddling pool briefly in the afternoon.
Nice. Well,
Although I did excitingly, beer-related, find out that a supermarket chain, other supermarkets are available, stock a German beer, Barton or Spaten, which is a very good beer, and it's imported, so it's not been brewed in Burton-upon-Trent, for example. And you can buy 3 bottles of that for £5. So that made me happy, at least. That was my beer thing for the day. I know it's very low-key by comparison, but... So
were you drinking these beers while Bob was in the paddling pool?
No, actually, because he was in there a little bit too early in the day. I say too early, it was sunny, but no, I didn't. But sadly, my 1-year-old son already knows how to do cheers and is very excited if I'm drinking a beer.
This is superb.
So he has no hope.
When can we get him on the podcast?
He needs to learn a few more words than what he's got. He can do you a good line in Dada, Mama, Happy, and Up. But, that's probably not a coherent review just yet.
Okay, we can work with that, I'm sure.
I'll start teaching him hops and citra. Yeah. Although, anything with 2 syllables, we'll work off that.
Don't teach him Kahaya Nelson, because we're not really going to say
we have digressed a lot, but I think that says a lot about the beer.
Yeah. Although having said that, I have now actually drunk the whole can, and I think once I'd got used to the sort of dankness of it, it didn't seem so bad, but it's not really a hit for us, is it? It's fine.
I think it's a good example of the fact that ourselves on a sunny day drinking it, so it's gone down. If I was going out and had this, I'd be a little bit annoyed. And that's no knock on Hackney Church, because as I say, I had their Cologne style lager last night. Superb. I've got their New Zealand Pilsner in the fridge, which I might have later on. I had another pail of theirs, Renaissance, and that was lovely.
Yeah, I think I've got that in the fridge as well.
That's a really good beer. So no knock on them. They can definitely brew. This is brewed perfectly well. Just don't like the hop.
Daft About Craft, the craft beer podcast.
Well, there we are. And that's just about it for this episode of Daft About Craft. Thanks so much for listening to myself and Dave B on episode 63. We'll be along in a few weeks' time, beginning of September, with episode 64. All your favourite features and lots more. Daft About Craft.